Commissioner, Mr. President, I rise again, I'm afraid, to make the same old hoary speech that I've been making here for several years, and that is, it is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They are broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they do not actually have. It is a criminal scandal and it has been going on for too long. To add to that problem, you have moral hazard, a very significant moral hazard from the political sphere. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. And until we start sending bankers, and I include central bankers and politicians, to prison for this outrage, it will continue. The problem that we have is a flawed banking system, a fractional reserve banking system, where bankers can lend money that they don't have. And if you go back in time to the United States in the 1850s, that was a capital offence. You could hang for that. Now we have this extraordinary situation where we've had regulation, lots of regulation. It's been the wrong sort of regulation, hasn't it? And so we've had another disaster. And none of this is actually going to save us from another disaster down the line. It's bound to happen because we haven't addressed the real problems, and that is your fractional reserve banking system. We must have a commodity bank on the one hand, and an investment bank on the other hand. So, Commissioner, you talk about banks' ability to withstand shocks. Well, by this definition, by your definition, a shock is people turning up wanting their money back. You know, that's not a shock. That's a sort of should be a day-to-day occurrence and should be dealt with accordingly. And we're talking about bankers' bonuses, an absolutely wonderful way of taking everybody's eye off the ball. What we've actually had here is criminal activity by bankers, and not a single banker has been sent to prison. This is extraordinary. Billions of pounds have been taken away from taxpayers, taken away from depositors, bondholders, and yet not a single banker is in jail. This is a disgrace. This is a disgrace. We really have to use the law of the land, not so much regulation, and printing money. And central banks are equally culpable, make no mistake. I'd like to see some central bankers in prison. And I call quantitative easing counterfeiting. Printing money is counterfeit. It's illegal. If a private citizen did it, they would go to jail. So let's look into our own hearts. The very unpleasant arrangements that politicians, bureaucrats and central bankers have between themselves at the expense of the taxpayer. Let's end it, and let's end it now.
All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. This is Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 35, and it reads, Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meat yard, in weight, or in measure. Just balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hin shall ye have. I am the Lord your power, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, which brought you out of the land of Egypt. Now what you saw was a guy, all right, and I take him to be in the government somewhere over in the UK, breaking down the financial banking system. All right. And that's why I wanted to start off with the law, because the Lord specifically told us not to deal with false balances, okay, unjust weights, having a paper that represents something you actually don't have. We are forbidden to do those things, all right? And you can see why the Lord has told us not to do something like that with the system that they have in place now, all right, where they're in this huge debt bubble because they've been printing money, all right, that does not exist, that has nothing backing it, all right? Now, when you go into the scriptures and it talks about money, all right, for example, I'll go to Deuteronomy 23:19, and it reads, "Thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother, usury of money, usury of victuals, usury of anything that is lent upon usury. Unto a stranger thou mayest lend upon usury, but unto thy brother thou shalt not lend upon usury, that the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua thy power, may bless thee in all that thou settest thine hand to in the land whither thou goest to possess it." All right, now that word for money, okay, that word for money, let me grab it really quick, is kesef or kasaf. All right, if I'm mispronouncing it, forgive me. But it says, biblical usage, silver, money, silver as metal, as ornament, as color, money, shekels, talents. All right, and then Strong's definition says silver, all right, by implication, money. All right, because when you go through the scriptures, the same definition, all right, the same Hebrew word is used for silver and money in the Old Testament, which is why they attribute it to silver. But the point being is that our money was a metal. It wasn't a paper that was attributed to a metal. All right, and that's what the dollar originally represented. It represented gold at first and then silver. All right, and eventually they just got rid of that gold standard and the silver standard, and now you just have a debt note. And I wanted to point out this because the Lord told us not to do this, man. And it's a reason that this system is in the condition that it's in. And you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are in the condition that you're in. All right, because they lend with usury. All right, and the so-called Jews, all right, which are the tribe of Amalek, they believe that everybody else is Goyim, so they hike up these interest rates, and they hike them up, especially on you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which is why the curse says that they shall lend to you, but you shall not lend to them. All right, but going back into the topic of the lesson, the subject matter, not having just weights and just balances has consequences, man. And on top of everything else that's going on in the planet, this is another reason that the Lord told us this was our wisdom in the sight of the nations. Because this kind of system is not sustainable. This type of system is not sustainable, and it's a reason that the Lord advised us not to do this. And now you have a situation where there's debt bubbles everywhere. The money doesn't represent real substance. And the money that you have on your debit card, if you went to try to pull that money out, they wouldn't let you. Because 9 times out of 10, like he said, the banks don't have the money. All right, and this is why the Lord said this. Let me go to it. Ecclesiasticus chapter 10 and verse 8. And it reads, "Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another." All right, and this is just one of the many offenses and one of the many reasons why the Lord is going to remove the so-called white man from rulership. Because that's one of the things that the Lord hates, man. All right, the Lord called that an abomination, man. Matter of fact, let me grab it. This is Proverbs 11:1. And it reads, "A false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight." So the Lord deals with just weights, man. Just balances. Meaning the Lord doesn't deal with funny money, man. That's why it says riches got by deceit. Because fractional reserve banking, all right, and I would advise you to look it up, is deceit, man. It means that they can loan out money they don't have. That's why it's called fractional reserve, meaning they can loan out a fraction of something that they don't have, man. You have $1, they can loan out 10 just based on your dollar. And that's how, and you can quickly see based on that principle how this can snowball into a system like this one, man. Where you have fiat currency running wild, and all it takes is for people to lose confidence in the dollar and make a bank run, and it is over, man. Or on a global scale, all it takes is for the other nations to start dumping the dollar, and it's over. Why? Because this is not just weights. These are false balances, and these are riches gotten by deceit. And this is what happens when you allow unjust weights, unjust balances, and greed, and you just mix it up into a pot. You get Esau Edom's financial banking system. And now it's really robbery now, because now they're going to move to cashless, where they don't even have to worry about printing up the money anymore. They can just put numbers onto a computer. And if you think the deceit was crazy now, imagine when it goes completely cashless and it's all on the computer. And that's why all of the economists are talking about the inevitable crash and the necessary reset. And they're going to try to reset it with the RFID microchip. Because they're going to move to a system where you don't even have paper money. It's just numbers. It's just numbers on a computer. And that goes further. That's deeper and deeper into that false balance, man. It said Abraham was rich, and Abraham wasn't rich in FRNs, all right? Matter of fact, this is Genesis chapter 13 and verse 2. And it reads, and Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold, man. That was money. And that same word for silver translates to money when you go into the law. That was money. Esau has gotten to a point where he doesn't even say that your dollar represents metal anymore. It doesn't represent a precious metal. It's not backed by anything. It's just paper. It's monopoly money. And that's why the Lord said, because of riches got by deceit, man, unrighteous dealings. These are unrighteous dealings. And that's why the Lord told you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, man, to come out of her. Because it's going to destroy you with a sword of destruction. You're working super hard. You clocking in all these hours, and you bringing in little. Why? Because it doesn't represent nothing. The money is not backed by anything. And you get the worst of it because you're the bottom of the totem pole in this system. Haggai 1 and 5. Now therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Ye have sown much and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes. And Esau's system helps further that affliction. They have something called predatory lending. All right. They have something called subprime loans, where if you are a minority or if you have bad credit, they add extra interest rates onto the money that they loan you that they actually don't have. They add extra interest when they try to loan you money that they don't even have. That's unrighteous dealings. And this politician is going into it. He's explaining that. And it falls on deaf ears because he said something very important. He said the banking system and the political system are tied together. Meaning the banks pay off the politicians to keep quiet and let them continue to do these unrighteous dealings. And that's why the Lord said this, man. Let's get this, bro. Let's get this. Let's go to Daniel. All right, because the Lord said this about the Babylonian kingdom. All right. But this applies to today as well. All right. This is Daniel chapter 5 and verse 27. All right. I'll start at 26. This is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. 27. Verse 27 reads, Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. And that banking system is a perfect example. Wanting means lacking. You've been weighed in the balances and you've been found lacking. Now, if you look at the banking system, for you to loan out money you don't even have, that's why the banks are broke. That's why they put limits on what you can and can't withdraw. Because they're too busy loaning out money they don't even have, man. And that's why the Lord said, because of unrighteous dealings and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated, man. The Lord is about to remove this kingdom, and it's a laundry list of reasons why. And this is just one of them. But this is going to usher in that RFID microchip. It's going to usher in hyperinflation, famine. So the Lord is using this to accomplish a goal. Make no mistake. But for those of the elect, Lord willing, we're a part of that number. This is a classroom for us. We're supposed to see certain things like this, go back to the scriptures and say, that's why the Lord told us not to do that. It makes sense. Because it's one thing to see it on paper, but it's another thing to live in it, man. We live in this shit, man. Excuse my French. Excuse me. We live in this, though, man. You know, they talk about the generational wealth gap in Babylon the Great. How can you ever get out of that jam? The money not even real. And the fake money, they put extra interest on you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So you'll never get out the hole as a nation of people. That's why the scriptures talk about this right here, man. Let me go to it. This is Lamentations 4:17. All right, and it reads, As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help, and our watching we have watched for a nation that could not save us. Bro, they don't have no intentions of saving you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. They don't want to save themselves. That banking system that they set up, their own people have to deal with it. Their own people suffer from it. His desires is hell and his death and cannot be satisfied, man. Matter of fact, let me go to this in the Apocrypha. Because somebody like that can't be in rulership, man. And the Lord is showing us why. It's not just because it's the so-called white man. It's because of unrighteous dealings, man. It's because of your actions, man. What are you doing on the planet, man? You've been given the seat of power. And what are you doing with that power? You're abusing it for greed's sake, for vanity. And that's a problem, man. Let me get this in Apocrypha. Salakia. Yep. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 14 and verse 5. All right. And it reads, He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. So if the so-called white man will create a system where his own people have to suffer in it, to whom will he be good? And this is just the Lord showing us. You know, like I said before, this is a classroom for the hopeful elect. so that we can see these certain things play out on the earth and be like, and go back to the wisdom that the Lord gave us and say, wow, okay, this is what happens. This is the consequence of violating this law. So Lord willing, this was edifying. I just wanted to go into that briefly. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rukah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And I just want to say this, man. The Wadi Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai for his wisdom and his knowledge. The Wadi Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai for giving us the law, statutes, and commandments. And the Wadi Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai for working and allowing us to actually have something righteous on the earth coming soon. In abundance. Righteous rulership is coming to the planet Earth, man. And things like this are going to be unheard of. All right, so with that, again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rukah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah. And a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.